for joining us at the ever-improving No Soundbites Allowed podcast. My name is Michael Vasquez. We thank you for joining us in this adventure of describing the politics that go on in our nation on a personal and local level as often as possible, giving you, the audience, more than just 30 seconds to understand what's going on in our nation. We look forward to joining you as we go. Just sit back, enjoy the ride. Please remember, if you like the episodes, like it, share it, let other people know, and if you can, please donate, even if it's $2, even if it's $5, because it all makes a difference. We thank you, and here we go. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at No Soundbites Allowed. This is your host, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, Michael Voss. I just wanted to thank you for joining us. Now, this will be a continuation of our conversation with Councilwoman Dani Cronce of the 3rd District of Binghamton, New York, the City Council. And we're going to be picking up from a previous episode, and this will be our conversation about the political aspects for Councilwoman Cronce. I hope that you enjoy it, and please do share this amongst your friends and let us know your thoughts about it. So without further ado, we'll pick up with our ongoing conversation. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming back to No Soundbites Allowed with my special guest in the studio today. That is Dani Cronce.
Why, hello.
Yes, it's good to always have her here, and we're having a good conversation. Now, I want to be very clear for everyone. There's 2 different aspects to you.
Yeah.
And that is that on the one end, you have the nonprofits that you work with and those organizations. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there is another aspect of your life, and they're very separate. One doesn't have to do with the other. You deal with them independently. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention it, is that you're also an elected politician.
Yes, I am. You're
actually the 3rd District Councilwoman for the city of Binghamton. Mm-hmm. And I happen to live in that district as well. And you had, this is your first term in that office, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so, how do you like it?
There's parts that I like and there's parts that I don't like. I do like being able to help Binghamton. I like being able to push the issues that Binghamton has. I like to push those forward and having a voice in that. And then there's things that I don't like the party politics, which I could care less about, so.
Well, I can understand that. Party politics can be difficult at times.
Yeah.
The city of Binghamton has a lot going on, and especially now, this is an election year for a lot of offices out there. But what do you see as some of the biggest challenges, some of the biggest things going on in city government at this time?
Well, I see, that we need to really be working more towards getting the buildings that are dilapidated and falling apart to fix them up. I see, that we have a very high poverty rate that needs to be addressed. I feel like our schools really need help. Our youth needs help. Our families need help. Many different areas in poverty. And then in the issues that poverty creates, it creates domestic violence, it creates drug use, it creates crime. These are issues that I care about, and these are the issues why I ran, is to help take care of those issues and comfort the community and help those who are in need.
Those are some serious issues. Being as, obviously, the political commentator I am, I've read a lot about the correlation of not having work and not having something to do, and how that affects higher crime rates, higher poverty rates, higher drug rates. And these are things that everyone's been focusing on a lot lately. What initiatives are you aware of that maybe are already in the process or maybe coming up soon for the city of Binghamton to address some of these concerns?
Well, I have several initiatives that I'm working on as city councilwoman myself. One right now is an upcoming trip to Buffalo, where we'll be working with the leaders from the Buffalo movement who restored Buffalo. I'm trying to create a better Binghamton movement here in Binghamton that just addresses the needs. It addresses the issues that we have with Department of Social Services, the issues that we have with crumbling homes, the issues that we have with violence and domestic violence and drugs, and just trying to build tourism, build job opportunities, build our children,
Well, I know one of the things that you're working on recently, and I've heard about this, is with the housing, quality housing for non-students. And for those who are not familiar with the area in the city of Binghamton, we are a college town. We have the university, Binghamton University, here. And so a lot of the housing has become targeted towards the students who tend to be able to afford more. And it's raised the average cost of a rental. And
that's very detrimental especially for low-income families, and it's displaced families. A lot of people are unable to get a quality house. By quality, I mean something that's safe, something that passes inspection, something that has adequate heating, adequate water, that doesn't have mold issues. These are issues as a low-income person myself I've had to deal with personally. The student housing has pushed the low-income families out of any good housing. I really have a problem with that. One of the things I am doing is I created a Broome County Landlord Association. We work with the student landlords. We work with the high-income landlords, with the luxury housing. We work with affordable housing. I work with landlords who offer housing for those who are disabled, who work with DSS and SSI, just to try to thoroughly see what we have now and what can we do to fix the needs that our city has now.
that is an important, a big project. It's not a little one.
No.
I know there's a component about that even deals with, from the other side, from the landlord side, or maybe even in conjunction with it, which deals with DSS housing.
Yes.
And how that affects the quality of homes as well.
Yes. There's been several issues with DSS, and this is something that I've been speaking about also on the Bob Joseph Show. I'm very public with this, is that DSS is making our low-income residents transient. In the fact that, say we have a person who is having trouble keeping their home clean, instead of seeing what services we can do for them, DSS, the second they have a complaint from a landlord, they'll move them to a new home, regardless if a landlord's willing to work with them or not.
That's something I don't think a lot of people realize.
Yes.
Is that, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, for the DSS system, they have a criteria. It's a dollar value.
Yeah.
So if you are, for whatever reason, with the DSS program, you have X amount of dollars that you owe a landlord for rent. And let's call that $1,000. And as long as you are, and if you have that $1,000 in their criteria, they have a target, which says it costs about $1,500 to put you into a new apartment. So if you're at $1,000, they'll pay the landlord $1,000 to keep you in that housing.
But say something happens and that you owe them $2,000. Well, it's cheaper for DSS to move people into the $15,000 home than to pay the $2,000, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. DSS is task-based and not client-based, which also creates a huge problem. The fact that they're not monitoring the people who are on DSS, they're not monitoring the people who have who might have a mental disability, they might have addiction problems, there might be abuse. They're not monitoring that because it's all task-based. It goes into DSS. DSS fixes one problem, and there's no follow-through with how does that affect this client that we have.
And again, task-based, just for people to understand, that means, like the example with the rent, it's a dollar figure criteria. It's a very simple thing of, okay, how much money is it? It's cheaper to do X than Y. Whether or not it actually helps the people is not
and
a
DSS
factor.
is not helping people. It's not helping the landlords, and it's not helping their clients. We just need to be able to find a way to get this through the state, that we bring it back to client-based, and we stop taking dollar signs over the people who are on DSS. There are people who are on DSS who really need it. Let's say you have an addiction problem and you're on DSS, and like we say, you can't get a job, you're walking around, you're having a hard time. What happens if you get upset and you go back on a drug and things spiral out of control? DSS they don't care. They're not going to take any account for that. They're just going to say, okay, look, the landlord called and they're having parties at night, so they want to evict them. And instead of working with them and the landlord to solve this problem and maybe offer them the help that they need, we'll just send them to a new landlord. And then that also creates another problem. We have a lot of tenants who are destroying the houses.
That's a big thing. I've heard that.
Yes, they are destroying the houses, and the landlords are having a hard time. They won't get their money back from DSS.
That's a problem.
And, a lot of the times we have good landlords out there who are trying to work with DSS, who are providing quality houses. I know several of them. I've been in their homes. Their homes are great. I would move into their home. And then they'll show me what it looks like after a tenant moves out, and they have to completely redo everything in the home. DSS won't pay for any of that. That's keeping good landlords from wanting to move another person with DSS in there. There needs to be something to stop DSS from doing this. They need an accountability. They don't have any.
So there's two sides to this coin when it comes to quality housing. There's the landlord component of saying, okay, the absent landlords,
yes,
they're a problem, and that's often spoken about, and we all are aware of that. But at the other side, there's the system itself, like DSS, where when you do have someone trying, then the system fails because the system isn't looking at quality of life. It's looking at dollar value.
Yes, I've had, let's say there's a landlord who has a person who's disabled, and this disabled person takes a shower. They don't know that they need to close the shower curtain. They have a mold issue. The landlord says, okay, DSS, look at this person didn't know to take it, and instead of working with them and maybe helping them get set up with services, there's Achieve, there's Springbrook, there's many services that these people can get into that will bring people into their homes, that'll help them, educate them, and just help them live a healthier life. That's what they're there for. That's why we have these services. And instead of doing that, they kicked this woman out of her home, and the landlord was like, no, wait, she's a good person. I don't want to lose her.
So the landlord's trying to keep her.
Was trying to keep her.
Okay.
And they kick her out, they move her out. Then what happens? Then she's transient again. And then, once again, a landlord is set, having to pay fees to fix the house and clean up the mold issue and repair the ceiling and everything else that DSS left in that wake. And this is something that happens that I've heard a lot about. For me, it just drives me nuts. I can't fathom that. Why are we not offering services to the people that need it?
It's something that
helping landlords.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people don't hear about, is that there's the other side to this, where we have landlords who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to improve the quality of living, and the system is failing them. And not a lot of people address that and hear about that. So that's one thing.
It's something that does need to be addressed, because I am afraid that we are going to lose all the good landlords in Binghamton. And then all we're going to have are the slumlords that don't care what homes they have. And that's a huge problem that we do have in Binghamton, and we are losing good landlords because DSS is not accountable.
Well, we have enough reasons why people are being pushed or leaving New York State, 1 million people in the last 8 years, and all the tax revenue that goes with it. So we don't need anything else that's pushing that further. And I'm not going to go too far. And by the way, everybody, just in case you didn't know, Councilwoman Cronce is a Democrat. and I am a very conservative Republican. And we've had many a discussion about that. And I've known...
Yes, polite disagreements.
Okay, you can call it that. Some days. But I do enjoy those discussions and even our disagreements, because I think it's important. If we don't have those disagreements, we don't talk about them. No, there is nothing that gets resolved. And I do thank you for the fact that as one of there's a few politicians on the other side of the aisle that I speak with on a regular basis, and we trade ideas and see how can we improve things. So I do appreciate that all the time. Let me ask you, so that's the housing and the quality housing. I know that's been a big issue for you since the day you got elected, and this is something that's ongoing and you're working on. What about some of the things that you've already done? I know a lot of people sometimes ask me, so what have you been doing since you got elected? What things have been done?
We have 47 North Street, which was marked for demolition. I stepped in literally right before it was going to be demolished and worked to save it, took it off the demolition list, worked with First Ward Action Council and United Way to put a community center in there and to put some housing in there and to run some offices out of there. Worked with Crandall Street to help get that saved. That's an $11 million project where we are restoring and redoing all the houses. First Ward Action Council will run it. And one of the things I really want to work on is just getting background checks. I am so tired of people coming into my neighborhood and letting anyone rent without a background check. I am tired of having drug dealers come into my neighborhood. I'm tired of having gangs come into my neighborhood. They are not welcome here, and I will do everything I can to get those drug dealers and gangs out, because my children in my district and the families in my district deserve better. And that is something that not a lot of people seem to recognize. But when landlords don't do their job, it affects the neighborhood. And that is something I am working very hard on and I'm very animate about, which is why I'm very proud to have First Ward Action Council coming into the 3rd District to help fix our neighborhood. I'm proud to have United Way and the anti-poverty coming in. We're working to help the adults in the district, help educate them, help them get their higher education, or just learn about what is available, what opportunities they have.
Well, I want to address something, because I actually am aware of it when we're talking about 47 North Street and the Crandall renovation project, the $11 million grant that came in for that. And I know a few people have said, so who was involved in that? Who moved that forward? And I know some people have taken credit for that actually weren't involved. And I know this because I know the process. I was involved in the process. I looked into it because I live in the 3rd District myself. So I was very familiar with that project. And it's kind of funny how there were people at the last minute, after well over 18 months of work were done, that swooped in and took credit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how that happens. And so I want to be very clear for people listening and who may not be familiar. I've actually done the research. I was there as the process was going through as a resident of the 3rd District. And it's just kind of funny that I don't know that you got the full credit that you should have gotten, because there were a lot of other people after the money showed up suddenly saying, hey, we were involved in that too, and I never saw
and
them.
the thing is I was the one that they were calling crazy forever. Oh, that's not going to work. Why do you care about that? Nobody's going to help you. I pushed it, and pushed it, and I wouldn't stop pushing it until it was fixed. You're not going to badmouth me and scare me away. I don't care. If there's a problem in my neighborhood that I see that needs to be fixed, I will keep addressing it until someone hears me and someone helps.
No, there's definitely been a few challenges along the way.
Yeah. Oh, and this is in the north of Main area, and on the south of Main area on Front Street, I also really pushed to have 50 Front Street in. And that will be residential housing and some marketing. The residential housing, though, will go to our professionals and maybe our professors or businessmen. I think that it's time to stop only thinking that the only people who deserve luxury housing are the students. We have so many people who work in Binghamton, who work hard, who want to have a quality house, that also deserve to have a quality house that they can afford in their budget. I work to help the low income, and I believe that the people who work hard and make above the low income and make good money, they deserve to have a good place in Binghamton.
So that's the middle class for the most part. Now, I notice it's kind of interesting because in Binghamton, in the city of Binghamton, the 3rd District, it's an area just off of downtown for people who are not familiar with it. And as I recall, the data is that it's the largest off-campus location for students from Binghamton University. It's got the west side, which is more middle class and affluent in it to an extent. And it also has the northern part of it, which is, as I mentioned, and we were discussing, has a little bit of the lower income component with it. And it's also contains a large part of Main Street, which is a business corridor.
Yes.
So it sounds like it's got to be a little bit trying.
Yes, yeah. And with the student housing, I have a resident student outreach board. I work directly with BU. I work with the vice president's office, the Randall Eduardo, and he is the vice president for student affairs. We also work with Dean Milton Chester, who is the dean of the OCC, the off-campus college. We've addressed a lot of issues. We've addressed a lot of the partying issues, the safety issues. We're working on zoning right now to help make all the student housing legal in the West Side and to help enforce safety and permits and just make our students safe. We work to make sure that the relationships between the students and residents are up and running well.
Well, I know that's a big issue because one of the things, and tell me if I'm right about this, because there's a question, again, it goes back to quality housing and having enough inspectors to make sure the houses are right. But there's actually a law that exists from New York State that makes it harder for housing to be quality. And I think there's something that you may be working on about that. I don't know if you can talk about it.
Yeah, I can. It's public knowledge for many people, and I have the support of the vice president for the student affairs, and we have the support of the off-campus college as well. This is something we've been working on for 2 years through the Resident Student Outreach Board. It's the C6 zoning. What happens is in the 70s when they released all the disabled people from the big, companies that they were in, and they took them to housing. New York State created a functional family law, which means that no more than 3 people can live in a home that are not related. And that's a safety standard. And, in many parts of Binghamton, that's fine. It's needed. What we found in the west side and in my district is I have pockets where there's 65% or more of student housing. Some of these housing issues that we have they weren't permitted. They got no variance. It's not marked anywhere in Binghamton records that it is student housing. It's illegal housing. The issue with that I see that sticks out to me the most is that these houses were not inspected. We don't know if they're safe or not. And that puts our students at risk. What happens if you have a house that isn't inspected, somebody did the work themselves, and it catches on fire because of faulty electric work? Would Binghamton be held accountable for that? Are we going to be sued? Will we lose the life of a child or more because we didn't feel like enforcing this? These are issues that I'm trying to take care of. What the C6 will do is take it from a residential 3 district and turn it into a C6, which is residence and limited commercial. And pretty much what that does is it removes the functional family law. And on top of that, what we're looking to do is remove the functional family law, which will then make it legal. But we still have an issue. There's still the housing that hasn't been inspected, the permits that need to be caught up. So what I'm trying to do is put that they have a grace period, maybe a year and a half, to get all these homes that were not permitted and not inspected, to get the permits, to get them inspected without being worried about paying fees or, being fined for doing that illegally. Just get it done. Get those houses inspected and make sure our students are safe.
So essentially for the landlords, from the landlord and the student perspective, right now, if there's a problem in an apartment, both the landlord and the students don't want to tell anybody or do anything about it because, well, then an inspector finds out about it, and now the landlord gets a fine, maybe the student get kicked out, and so they suffer because losing housing and losing income. So both sides are losing on that, but at the same time, the property's lower quality because you can't fix it because of that same thing. So it's a big loop there.
Yeah, and one of the things we're working on with BU, excuse me, is getting a code enforcement officer just for this part in the West Side district. That is, like I say, in my district. Working with BU. We already have a police officer who works with BU in the West Side, and I want a code enforcement officer so that we can really keep track of what's going on. A lot of the students, they're young, they move out. I've had students board up windows in the basements and have parties. Do you know how seriously scary that is? If something were to catch on fire, these kids can't get out.
True. That's a big one.
Yeah, we've seen them barbecuing on the roof. How many times?
Playing football on a roof. I remember hearing about that one. Yeah.
Or, just not throwing out their garbage and attracting a lot of animals. So that's a safety issue, not only for the students, but for the people who live next door who maybe don't want a whole bunch of mice going into their basement and in their house,
Yeah.
So that helps, it would help alleviate a lot of the problems. It would just be assigned to the C6 district to help the C6 district function better, have better safety.
So it helps everybody.
Yes.
It helps everybody in the community on several levels.
And we hope that, it can alleviate a lot of the problems we have. We can also, maybe up our standards for the noise ordinance, maybe get another BU police officer if needed.
And BU's helping to pay for some of this, right?
Yeah. BU right now pays for the police officer on the west side. I'm working with them to utilize our police officer better. And if we have it clearly defined where what the student housing is, then it will be easier to define what duties the police officer needs to do as well.
Well, I know a lot of people are concerned about the cost. So the fact that BU is helping to, Binghamton University is helping to pay for that, that takes a burden off of the community as well. So that's a big thing. What I'd like to do is I want to take another, it's a long segment. I want to take another little break here and just ask you a couple of other little questions.
Okay.
You don't get on a lot to be able to speak. So I love having this opportunity. Do you have a few more minutes, maybe another 5 minutes with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and we'll ask Councilwoman Dani Cronce a few questions that I've heard, not really with politics, but it would be interesting. So stick around, folks. We're going to be right back. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us back here at No Soundbites Allowed. That's right, it's your favorite program with your favorite person, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. And I want to thank everyone for being here. And we have, we're just going to have a little bit extra. Very graciously, Councilwoman Dani Cronce has stayed on and speaking with us, and we're covering just a lot of ground. From her personal life and some of the personal projects she's working on, as well as professionally, some of the things she's been doing as an elected official. And I wanted to take a moment because there's always been, a lot of people always like to ask about when you're a woman, obviously, but a woman in politics. And there aren't a lot of those. And I know that's been a big subject lately. A lot of people have been talking about that. And I don't think anyone's ever asked you, what's it like to be a woman? Just to give people a background on the Binghamton City Council, you're the only woman on the council. Oh, there is. Oh, no, that's right. Sophia just joined. So, oops, that's right. We just added a second person.
Yeah.
But for a long time, you've been the only woman on the council. How's that experience been so far?
I feel like sometimes it's like the quiet voice of reason, or maybe like the mother's voice of, well, maybe we should think about this first, So I think that happens quite a bit.
Is it hard to be a woman in politics, in your experience?
No, I don't think it is. I think, you hear a lot of push for women to run. I see a lot of angry women, though. I can just say to those women, don't run in anger. Because, there's a soft side that women have that we should be embracing, because that's the side that we don't see in politics right now. And that's the side that's being ignored. And when you come in with angry intentions, you ruin that. You're ruining it for a lot of women, too. I try to bring love. I try to bring peace. And those are the things that we need more of in politics. And as a woman, anyone who will be bringing that is very welcome. And I feel like the men need that too sometimes. They are very driven, and sometimes they lose sight of the small things that women tend to see.
So it adds a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know that you're also, as we said before, a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also surrounded right now in the Binghamton City Council. It is a majority for the Republicans. How has that experience been? Have you had a lot of trouble with the Republicans there? Obviously, we look at national politics, there's no love lost in Congress or the two sides of the Senate, but is that reflective in the local politics that you've experienced?
For me, I've had no problems with the Republican Party. It's actually really come from the Democrat Party because I do work with Republicans. As you said, we are the minority. If we want to get anything done, I have to work with the Republicans. If I want to push any of my initiatives through, I do need to work with the Republican mayor. These are things that I work on. You see, I do quite a bit. There's things that I haven't even been able to talk about that I do.
No, there's quite a few. Yeah.
Yes. And I can't do it if I don't have the majority's help. And thank God I do have the majority's help. And I can't believe that I have my own party kicking me out because I do work with the majority, because I put my community first.
Well, I always like to make a clarification. I know when I'm speaking about it, because there's a difference between the leadership, the progressives like Citizen Action, and the rank and file Democrats. Mm-hmm. Most people I speak to most people who aren't part of the leadership of their party, they're rank and file, and they have one view of the party. And then you see people like the Citizen Action groups who are trying to usurp the parties and push them. And you could say, and the argument's made about the Tea Party or the alt-right doing the same thing on the right side. So I don't want to say it's just one party.
Yeah, it's the extremists on both sides. Whether you're Citizen Action or the Tea Party, the extremists, they like to disrupt and stop progress. They've tried many times. I've had the Citizen Action come and literally attack me publicly, and in my own life as well. Personally.
So they didn't just stop at the politics.
No, they don't.
Made it personal.
They personally attacked my own personal life. I've had to move out of my home for safety reasons because of them. I've had to redo my Facebook because they broke into my Facebook twice.
Wow.
Yes. I won't let you keep bullying me and stop. I'm just going to keep going. My drive comes from helping the people I serve. And if you're not going to put the people you serve first, then that's on you, but it won't be on me.
Well, that is a great message. And that's something that shows in all the passions you have for all the projects you're working on. Absolutely. If you were to speak to, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican, nonpartisan, but just you're speaking to, say, women or minorities out there who are saying, is it worth it? And knowing that some days it's difficult to be in politics. Mm-hmm. I think all of us who deal with politics know there's days it's not fun. Is it worth it? Is it something you would recommend for people to do?
Yes. It gives me the opportunity to really make a change in the community. I'm very grateful to be able to be an elected official. It's given me a way to take issues that I've had through my own poverty, through being a parent of a disabled child, through my divorce, through being married to a man who was an alcoholic. It takes these issues, and I can see the people with other issues that they have, and I can come and help them in a political role, and that's a role that's often ignored. So for me, it is very worth it. If you are having problems, instead of getting mad, start fixing them.
There's a message for all politicians to go forward with. It's like, let's fix the problems, not make more problems or extend them. Let's actually fix them. Governor Cuomo, I'm talking to you. That's from me. Yeah, that's my personal view. And I won't get into that. But I know we've had you here for over an hour, and I know you have a busy schedule, obviously, and you've been doing a lot of work. But we want to thank you for being here on No Soundbites Allowed, and to have a conversation with us to talk about everything that's going on. As many Democrats, it's funny, sometimes I get some of the Democrats, politicians, elected officials, they always worry, and yet they always have a great time. I'd like to ask, you had a good time? Mm-hmm. Everyone always has a good time when they come in for an interview, but it's always funny how they always say, oh my God. Yeah. It's like, no, but everyone has fun with the show. So I do thank you for having come on, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon. Would you like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll definitely have you on again soon. We'll talk about some of these projects as they're coming up. But we want to thank you, And we're looking forward to speaking with you again very soon. Okay?
All right.
All right. And all right, folks, and you're going to hear, we're on the exit music. I hope you're going to enjoy that. And we're looking forward to seeing you here at No Soundbites again. No Soundbites Allowed with your host, Michael Voss, very, very soon.